Um, the MMRF was founded by a lady named Kathy Giusti, who is a multiple myeloma research or multiple myeloma survivor. Um, and so a lot of the people that you ran into at the foundation, did a lot of them have ties to the condition? Did you see a lot of the volunteers there were folks like you that had a parent or a relative that was diagnosed or had lost the battle to multiple myeloma?
Well, watching the whole transformation of the foundation over the years was actually pretty remarkable. Even when I started hosting my golf events, still at that time, very few people knew what multiple myeloma, had ever even heard of multiple myeloma. And then there were a combination of a number of people in the industry. Unfortunately, some celebrities started being diagnosed with that. So one by one, all these people were then introducing it, and it, really, really grew. So yes, it's amazing how now, I hear this individual has multiple myeloma, but it's much more common, and we're not really sure if back then people just weren't diagnosed with it properly, that they had multiple myeloma, or just more people just know about it now. But it's certainly much more common for people to talk about it, and Kathy, who runs the foundation, is doing great, and it's great to hear.
Well, I think it's not a typical way to be diagnosed the way your father was, right? And so, back when there wasn't a lot of information about the condition, people were probably diagnosed at a much later stage simply because they started to have they were feeling poorly, which got them into the doctor's office. And then by the time their diagnosis comes, it's a later stage diagnosis versus,
That's right.
going to give blood. And it just happens to be this anomaly that, hey, there's something that doesn't look right here.
Right.
So have you seen a lot of advancements in the area of science around multiple myeloma? Are you still, I know you've ended the golf outing, your kids started to grow up and get involved in sports themselves and activities, so your time was limited, so the golf outing was put on hold for a time being. Have you kept up with the association and the advancements they're making?
Sure. A perfect example is Celgene. Celgene's a company that, back in the day was kind enough to get some sponsorship, into the event. They would send some representatives, and at the time was a very small company. They've had some huge success in the multiple myeloma field, and today is an enormous company. So the amount of things, the lifespan that people have now that since diagnosis has dramatically increased. So there's been a tremendous amount of advancements. At the time, we were able to make sure that some of my money that was being donated would go to a trial here and there, and so tremendous amount of support, advancement, the way people are now living with the disease, and it's fantastic, really, what's happened. And what I hope is that, even though my father lost his battle, some of the things that he was working on and trying at that, hopefully, helped other people later in life.
Yeah. So, Brian, people that will be watching this, maybe somebody that has just gotten the diagnosis, or maybe a son that his father just got the diagnosis, and if they reach out to you, pick up the phone, and they say, "Hey, Brian, I happened to see your video, and I'm sorry for your loss. My father or my loved one has just been diagnosed." What would you tell them if they were calling you for advice on just beginning to enter this journey? What advice could you give them?
Well, first off, on the treatment of any cancer, or majorly in any disease, I would always talk, make sure you get a second opinion. I think it is important to make sure that you are comfortable with whatever the progression is going to be and treatment. I think it's very difficult to read a lot of the material about it if you're not a doctor or a scientist. And so I think that's very, very difficult. So I think, what you can do is reach out to a community. Healthy h360 obviously has a tremendous community of people that are involved with multiple myeloma, and talk to people about their treatments, talk to people about some of the stumbling blocks that they've had, talk to people about how to handle it financially, and there's a variety of different things that you're going to have to deal with, and the easiest way is to find people to communicate with this. Tell them how you feel, they'll tell you how they felt, and hopefully those people can help you. And I think there are a lot of people that are there to help you, both at these foundations, and at various companies around the world.
You make a good point about getting a second opinion, and many of my physician friends who are held in very high regard in the area of medicine in which they practice say to get a second opinion. And any doctor that is offended by you saying that you want to get a second opinion shouldn't probably be your physician. I believe it is critical to get a second set of eyes on blood work or imaging or whatever it happens to be. Cannot be a bad thing. It's only in the best interest of the patient to get the best kind of treatment for whatever it is you're living with.
I think another big thing is, depending on the illness, you do want to make sure that you're being treated by a group or a practice or a center that does do some type of specialty in that area. It's not to say that you can't be treated at a lot of places, but when it comes to something like cancer, you do want to go to the best. You want to go to someone who's seen more of these cases, who's done more of the trials, who's done more of the treatments. We went to Little Rock, Arkansas. Unfortunately, it didn't work for us. But there's a reason that I went to Little Rock, because I was told that these are the best of the best. So try and make sure that you're going to a place that focuses on that particular type.
But multiple myeloma isn't something that you can, like if you hear that people are diagnosed with lung cancer, for example, and the first thing that you ask is, well, were they a smoker, right? Multiple myeloma is like that. There is nothing that you can point to, is there, that lifestyle or work environment?
Nothing concrete.
Nothing concrete.
No.
Yeah. So it's just one of these things that appears, and you have to deal with it the best way you can. Yep. And your point's a very good one, is find that one specialist that's seen it before, right? That has seen it, that's managed through it, that's got some level of knowledge about that certain type of condition. Is critically important.
Yes.
So now you're back in the swing of charitable work with Vital Options International, a 30-plus-year-old foundation that you and I both have the honor of serving on the board. We're going to re-erect a golf outing, right? So we'll use your experience from the years of conducting golf outing to raise money for Vital Options International. And like your family, as you well know from our board meetings, we're seeing people that at the end of the day have to make a decision whether they're going to put groceries on their table or pay for their treatment. And so talk to me a little bit about the importance of that, and people that are watching. People always come to me and say, well, I want to get involved in some way. What can I do? Talk to me a little bit about, how somebody can get started, or where they can figure out how to donate their time or their efforts to a worthy cause.
Well, look, a lot of people get involved with a lot of different charities for a lot of different reasons. I think it usually helps that you're getting involved with something that you have some experience in, and maybe you felt some of the pain or some of the the hardship that you went through, and then if you can take that history that you went through and then help someone else, then everyone's going to benefit. So with our golf outing, there's a variety of ways that we're going to be raising money, from getting people to attend if they play golf. Some people can just come to the dinner and enjoy the ceremonies. You can get sponsorships. I mean, there's a variety of different ways that we can make this better. And at the end of the day, we issued a number of grants to people this year. Whether we paid an electric bill, whether we put some groceries on a table. I know that you've spoken to some of these recipients personally, and the stories that you tell me of how thankful they are just by someone putting groceries in the refrigerator for that week is something that, if someone is going through these treatments, you don't realize how much other pressures are on you. And if someone just did something like that, how monumental it is. So I think we're really excited to continue to help more people.
One last question. You have 2 children of your own. When it came time to talk to them about the loss of your father and them not growing up with the grandfather on that side of the family, how did you approach that subject with your children?
Well, we talked about it at an early age, and then, unfortunately, they were witnessing a lot of the same emotions. When my mother recently passed of colon cancer, so a lot of these emotions had kind of gotten drum up, and we talked about it. I talked about unfortunately I'd gone through this before, and these are logical things, and so it's just important to talk and to let everyone have open emotions, really about what's going on, and hopefully you wish for the best, but as we know, cancer is a very tough one, and sometimes we lose the battle with it, unfortunately. So open dialogue, emotions. Another thing that I know is huge, going back to talk about my mother, is it is very important with someone that is actually dealing with disease for them to be able to talk. And they don't always want to do that. They're tired, they don't feel good. The last thing that they want to do sometimes is get in the car and go to a counseling session or go to an informational meeting. So the ability to use technology in today's world to talk to other people might make them feel a little bit better than they felt the day before.
Yep. I'm going to get on my soapbox here for just a minute, because we always talk at Healthy 360 that early detection saves lives. And in regard to colon cancer, the rule of thumb is when you turn 50, treat yourself to a colonoscopy birthday present. But if you have a family member, an immediate family member that's been diagnosed with the condition, it's 10 years prior to the age in which they were diagnosed. So if your mother was 50 when she was diagnosed, you should be getting your first colonoscopy at the age of 40.
That's right.
Because we know that, through technology, if we can catch it early, we have a good shot at beating some cancers. So not to put you on the spot, but I'm hoping that you've heeded to that advice.
I go see the doctor all the time.
There you go.